The other day I made a video on being an empath and setting boundaries, and it was a hit. So I think this is going to be a hit too. I am Coach Aubrey. If you get value from this today, please like and subscribe. I'm a mindset coach, a bodybuilding coach, and this is one of my favorite topics to rap about: limiting self-beliefs. They rule all. What we believe is everything. Truly, that's not an overstatement. What you think over and over and over again becomes a belief. So knowing that, we can rewire beliefs that are no longer serving us. So what made me think to talk about this today is that I was doing homeschool with my son today. And one of the reasons I pulled him out of school is because he started coming home very often and saying very negative things about himself. And we tried a lot of things. We tried to talk to the teacher, the principal, the school system. Really, it was just getting worse and worse. So I pulled him out, and that's been one of the main keys to unlocking his ability to learn, is rewiring what he's thinking about himself. We do the same thing. So I want to give you the example of what he did earlier. We were doing a test. I don't call them that to him because it freaks him out, but we were doing a test. And what I do is I'll do a review and I'll immediately put the test down. So he's got a developmental delay. He has autism. He has ADHD. He has a learning disability. And so there's a lot of things that are working against him. But the cool thing is he can learn, and he can learn as much as any other kid can learn, but he learns differently and he learns a little bit slower than other kids. So he did great the first half of the test. And then he started to get tired. And when he got tired, his body started to do something. His stress hormone kicked in, cortisol, you might have heard of it. And that triggered a response in the way that he started thinking. That just goes to show what stress does to us. I want to point that out. So he started getting in the spiral. He started saying out loud, "I'm stupid." Or he'd say, "I can't do this. Oh, I'm dumb." And that hurts my heart when I hear him say that. I've never once told him that, because in our house, we are firm believers that what you speak is your truth. And so I don't like hearing him speak like that. And so the more he did that, he just froze. He couldn't get any questions right, even easy questions that he's done 100 times. He couldn't do anything. He was paralyzed. And I thought to myself, that right there is what we do, isn't it? We allow these beliefs that are so limiting and so inaccurate about ourselves dictate our lives. They have complete control over our lives, because as soon as that belief takes over, as soon as it enters our mind, we start playing with it, it's a domino effect. Everything we do from that point on is through that lens, that self-limiting lens that we have. So I want to talk in this video about where that comes from, and then how to rewire your beliefs so you no longer have the faulty ones. The reason why I talk about this stuff is because I've lived it. I don't just blow smoke. I haven't read this in a book. Well, I have actually. I have my master's in mental health counseling. And so that's something that was very interesting to me, was how stress can trigger PTSD responses and just what it does to the brain and self-beliefs and et cetera. But the reason I went into counseling originally is because I was fucked up. I mean, and excuse my language, I kind of just speak freely in these videos, but I was fucked up. And I don't say that lightly. And really, my content isn't really intended for people who don't want to be better. People who just want to stay where they are, who are completely comfortable and want to ignore their issues, hate my videos. I'm obsessed with being better and better, with progress every day. So there was a point in my life where I was strung out on drugs. I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't take care of my son. My parents had to take my son for a while so I could get help. I was in and out of rehab. I was in and out of jail. I was in and out of bad relationships, and everything I touched, I ruined. That's where I came from. Not in childhood, but from adolescence on, it was a mess. And so I went from that to getting sober to completely rebuilding my life. Now I run a coaching business, a mindset and bodybuilding coaching business. I'm a professional bodybuilder. I have a wife. I have a husband I love dearly. I have a healthy son that I'm the best mom I could possibly be to. So I just like to share what I've done with the world, like the techniques I used that saved my life, that got me on the track to who I truly am, and that got me in front of you guys today. I never would have been able to make this video in the past. I couldn't even form a sentence at some times because I was just either messed up or withdrawing. So this is a blessing. I'm so grateful for this opportunity, and I have to share. I can't be quiet about it. So self-limiting beliefs come from childhood. Almost everything comes from childhood, not an exaggeration. At one point in time, we picked up a message that we were not enough, or that we weren't good enough, or we were bad, whatever it is, fill in the blank. That doesn't necessarily mean that we had to have bad parents or, people in our lives that were ill and had ill intentions. It might just be the way that we interpreted something. So for example, if you came from a home where maybe you had a single parent and they didn't have any help, that person might have been a damn good parent, but maybe you didn't see that person that much. And so you translated that as, I'm not worthy of being loved. I have to do something to get that love. Whatever the message is that you got at one point, that gets carried over into adulthood, especially if you don't work on it. So basically you're living this life and you're pretending you feel okay, but then you have all these beliefs going on inside of you that are making you feel uneasy. That's a huge reason why general anxiety disorder is one of the main disorders diagnosed in our nation, and why depression is, the rates are out of control. And I understand that we've come a long way in medicine, a long way in psychiatric care. We have labels, we have words for these things now, which is great because we can get help, but it's also becoming more and more prevalent. And so the reason I love talking about this stuff is because you do not have to stay depressed. You do not have to stay anxious. You do not have to stay living through a lens of trauma. You can come out of this. And so that's why I want to make this video. So we know where self-belief limitations come from. And, you know, even if they didn't come from childhood, they came from somewhere in your past. A lot of times I work with women who have come out of domestic situations, especially in coaching. A lot of bodybuilding, the sport, just as a sport, it attracts a lot of women who have trauma, myself included. I'm not saying if you're into bodybuilding, you have trauma, but I am saying that it's a great outlet because it allows you to channel that energy and that trauma, that stress that you could not release at one point. So a lot of times, when we've been through abusive relationships, we pick up a lot of self-limiting beliefs or faulty beliefs about ourselves that hold us back moving forward. So what the heck do we do, right? You're like, I get it. I know I have dysfunctional beliefs, but how do I rewire them? It's really simple, but it's not easy. That's the thing. So 3 steps I'm going to give you. First step is identifying what those self-limiting beliefs are, or faulty beliefs. If you don't know what they are specifically, just start paying attention. Like Eckhart Tolle, if you never Tolle, however you want to say it, if you don't know his work, feel free to check him out. He's all about being the observer of your thoughts. So instead of being carried away in your emotions and your thoughts, you start to learn how to identify them and kind of see them happening so you don't get carried away with them. And so if you can do that, that's a great trick to tapping into what those dysfunctional beliefs are. But if you can't quite get there yet, an easy way to do it is just whatever you're saying about yourself that doesn't feel good is inaccurate. It's not who you truly are. Otherwise, it wouldn't feel good. So you know, you can recognize something is not true about yourself if it doesn't feel good to think. So for example, and I hate even doing these examples because I don't like doing it, but if I were to sit here and say, I'm a loser, I really don't believe I'm a loser. I think I'm fantastic. I think I'm a winner all the way, through and through. But if I say, like, I think I'm a loser, then it doesn't feel good. I hate the way it makes me feel. It's not who I truly am. So that's another way you can identify what are faulty beliefs. If you absolutely can't do either one of those, you're just not there yet, then just look for patterns in your life that have caused you dysfunction. A lot of themes are relationships, like you attract the same type of mate in your life over and over, or maybe you attract the same type of friends that screw you over, or whatever it is, like fill in the blank because it's different for everybody, you know, or maybe it's addiction. Maybe you keep getting yourself into addiction. So you identify what that pattern is and write it down. So it's kind of like a 2-part in step 1. Identify it and write it down. Be specific, especially if it has to do with like a partner you're attracting in your life. What exactly are the characteristics that person has that show up in every relationship? It's really important to pinpoint these things. Okay, then step 2, pinpoint the examples of how this shows up in your life. It's really key. Don't skip that step. I'm going to start thinking about my own story here to help you out. So for me, a big theme was the type of man I attracted. I know I always talk about addiction, so I'm going to talk about something different in this. Before meeting my husband, I would always attract guys who were fun to hang out with, but they were childish. They were like comedians, and they would also, I hate to say this, a lot of them were felons, and a lot of them just could not live on their own. They were either financially dependent on their parents, or they just always needed help. That's what I attracted. And I found that in every relationship. I never could find an independent man. I wasn't attracted to that for some reason, and I wasn't attracting it into my life. And so I started to identify that over and over again. So I wrote it down, and I wrote what those characteristics are, which I just shared with you. And then I really got to the bottom of it, and I realized that the self-belief I had is that I don't deserve a man who can stand on his own 2 feet, that someone like that wouldn't even look my way, that someone like that's not interested in me. That was my belief. Saying that, like, it just makes me want to tear up because it's so not true. And I know that there's some of you watching this that probably have similar beliefs like this, and it's not true. So go through those steps. Rewind this video if you need to, rewatch that. Then this is where the magic happens, and this is where 95% of people stop. They identify the pattern. They know it's there. They can feel it, but they keep doing it anyway. They keep attracting it anyway. And it's because they're not taking this next step. It's so important, you guys. You have to actively show up different. So next time, and this is the hardest part, but hear me, if you stay true to this step, you will change your life. I promise you, because I've done it. So that means the next time someone asks me out, for example, who is not independent, who is not mature, who's reliant on their parents, I have to say no. So it's like even if I like them a lot, I have to say no, because that's where your dysfunction and who you truly are at a battle. Because this dysfunction has been running the show for so long, this faulty self-belief, so it's really loud. It's really loud for you, and you've been listening to it. So now you've got to get your true nature a little bit louder. So it's going to be hard at first because it's going to be so quiet and you're going to be doubting yourself, and it's not fun. It's not fun, but it'll get louder and louder and louder until this one gets quieter and quieter, until the true healthy self-beliefs are running the show. So if you just do that in every situation where you're seeing these patterns pop up, you'll rewire not only your thinking, but your life. So I'm just going to give like one or two more examples just to hammer this home. Another big one is jobs. A lot of times people stay in jobs that they hate. And you all, there are so many opportunities in the world. So many. So for me, I did not like working for people, you all. I know now that it's because that's not my true nature. I'm a leader. I'm very creative. I love leading. It is a passion of mine. And so it was really hard for me to take instruction from people who are not born leaders or who don't have a desire to lead. Like, that was really hard for me. But I would stay in those situations because I believed they knew best, and I believed that that was the best I could do. Once I broke out of that and I started tapping into what my skills actually were, what I love to do, which is bodybuild and talk about mindset like this. Once I broke out of that, I created my own company. I ran my own show. I did what I was supposed to do. And so, like I said, the louder you allow your true nature to talk, the quieter those dysfunctional, faulty beliefs are going to get. So I hope that helps. And I can't think of another example off the top of my head. I thought I was going to give you two, but I'm kind of running out of steam here. So why don't you guys give me your examples? I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Follow me on The Sculpting Coach on Instagram or Aubrey Whitley, Facebook. I always love to hear from you and expand my community. Like and subscribe if you got value from this video. And just remember, self-beliefs are everything. So you can program whatever you want into your mind. It just takes intention. And then don't skip step 3. That's the hardest part. It's the one that everybody skips, and it's the one that makes the difference. So go out there and actively seek those opportunities to show up different. Love you guys. Stay powerful.